Well, hello and welcome to this edition of the B Movie Den. As always, my name is Gary. This is Wade, and today we're not going to be doing a, drawing out of the hat. This one is, I've been waiting a while to be able to do this one. We're going to be doing Mr. No Legs. It finally came in from Massacre Video. I've been looking forward to watching this for over a decade. The closest I've been able to track down a copy was a Betamax from France. So I'm going to open this up now. And I am finally, yeah, you're not going to have much of an opinion of it, going to get to watch this after so fucking long. I'll be back. Well, I am now back from watching Mr. No Legs, also known as Killers Die Hard and No Guns and half dozen other names. So, where am I going to begin with this? Okay. So, as I had said before, the commercial break, the only time I've been able to track this down was either really expensive, like VHS tapes, or a French Betamax, because apparently this was not released in America, period, after the theatrical release back in the 70s. It was not well received at all back then. And it was a very slight, like a couple weeks or months at most. I never even heard of this movie until about a decade ago when I was at Horror Find Weekend and was just flipping through posters at one of the tables, and they had like it wasn't an original, it was just they had a bunch of copies. I saw like the German or I think it was German or Polish, I can't remember. But they had like a copy of it, and I just was like, this looks like the most ridiculous thing ever. And I told my father about it. I'm like, we need to track this down. I found the trailer for it, which was horrible quality. It just, I mean, it was just bad quality. But it was still one of those things that it became like one of those movies I had to track down. And lo and behold, last year, Massacre Video announced that they were going to release it. And so this moment that they put it out for, pre-order, I pre-ordered it, which was back in November, and they sent them out in May. Well, they started sending them out in May. COVID! Anyways, yeah, there is a copy of it. It's a very poor quality on YouTube. I waited until it came in the mail to watch it. There are two versions on the disc that I own. There is the French cut, which is basically a censored version. There's not as much violence or gore in it. And then there's a composite cut, because apparently a lot of the versions of this movie have been, I say versions, a lot of the 35 millimeter prints, 16 millimeter prints, VHS cuts, a lot of them have been destroyed. Apparently Hurricane Sandy destroyed a bunch of them in New York. Yeah. And just a lot of them just did not, were just kept in very, very piss poor conditions, which is actually at the beginning of the Massacre Video thing. They actually have like this big, like, it's like the composite cut has like all these things, and this is the reason why. So it's just like, it's not, crystal clear 4K edition. So if you're going to track down one of these 500 copies that this one was, there's talks of them actually making a wider release, non-special edition coming out soon, which is actually great for everybody else. It's like all of us that spent, $30 for these. It's like, okay, yeah, we spent $30 for them, but you're talking about 500 people that were looking for this movie. So now this is for, like, the wider release fans who are now looking at, the trailers or hearing us that are reviewing it now. Okay, now that I'm done with that, let's talk about the movie. So the cast of this movie is got people that have been, or like secondary actors that have been doing hundreds of movies. You have people like Rance Howard, who is the father of Clinton and Ron Howard, which going to ignore that part of it. So, a lot of people, especially nowadays, that's all they're going to know him for. But he's been acting since like the 50s. A lot of westerns, and sci-fi stuff, that kind of stuff. But I mean, he's a great actor. I was like, holy shit, you got Rance Howard's in this. Then you got Richard. What is his name? I'm gonna get his name wrong. Yeah, Richard Jackal. Anyways, he was in 200 TV shows and movies, almost all westerns. Genre fans might recognize him more as one of the leads of Grizzly, which came out I think it came out like the year after they filmed this, but a couple years before they released it. It took a while for this one to come out. The police captain was in like 101 things. The mob boss was in like 101 things. I mean, you have all these, and then you have like the other, because you have the two police officers who are like Chuck and Tony, or Andy. Chuck and Andy. So Chuck is played by Richard Jackal. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but anyways, who has done 200 westerns. He was like he was operator number 4 in Airplane 2, in Grizzly and all that. And then you have Andy, who was a wrestler back in the 70s, called under Ron Slinker. And this is his only feature role that he ever did. He was also a world-renowned martial artist who competed in 29 martial art tournaments and won 27 of them. He's a badass. And then the titular character, I've had a couple of those. Anyways, Mr. No Legs himself, who is... I've lost my place. Ted Volrath. This is the only movie he has done. And he actually has no legs. He lost them in Korea in 1952, where IMDb and Wikipedia says he was 18. He was actually 16 if his birth year is correct. I'm guessing that's kind of like, oh yeah, you can only be 18 to be fighting in wars. It's like, well, according to the math, he'd be 16. He shattered, both of his legs were pulverized in a mortar by a mortar fire, and had them removed 13 years later. He became the first person to win I say win, because that's how you win them, to receive a black belt in karate from a wheelchair. And then he won, I keep saying winning, and then he received several more, and then started his own school for people that were handicapped. So, like, watching the movie and watching him, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like, I'd be afraid to come across him in a dark alley. This guy is scary as fuck. You look him up. Ex-Marine, lost his legs in Korea at the age of 16. Multiple black belt. And so he has like a 5-minute, fight sequence of like 6 guys, like from the ground on his stumps, and he's just, I mean, some of it kind of looks goofy as hell, but I wouldn't mess with him. So you kind of have like a mixture of that. You have, Ron Slinkle and, Ted Volrath, who's this is the only movie they've ever done. And you have all these actors who have done hundreds of stuff, but almost always as secondary and supporting actors. So that's talking about the cast and like the creation is. I could not find a budget on how much this movie cost to make. I found out it was shot entirely in Florida. I found out that it was like almost universally banned in America for. So I guess having a guy in a wheelchair being a hitman with his double barrel shotguns, which I'm guessing that was the basis for, the villain in Wild Wild West remake. I don't know, but yeah, it was I like the movie. I can see why some people would ban it. Apparently, it was more popular overseas than over in America. But yeah, it's like, okay, so getting into the movie itself, it starts off with, with just these, old guys rolling cigars. And it's like, it zooms out a little bit, and they're just rolling cigars, Then they're just popping little white pills, cigars. It's totally normal. They're just rolling little white pills and cigars. Then they're rolling them some more, smoothing them out, making sure that the little pills are going there nice and sweet. And so it's like it's a drug operation. It's a smuggling operation. I wasn't fully understanding why the drug operation was going how it was, because the drugs in question, be it was a white powder, be it heroin or cocaine, could have been either one, was coming in these white bundles wrapped around loose tobacco leaves, and then was taken out of their little bags and then like cut and then put into little capsules, and then 2 or 3 of them put into each cigar that was then wrapped and then sold on street corners out of what looked almost like ice cream trucks. I guess they were like cigar trucks. It was an odd it was an odd selling point. But that's as much of the drug operation as you actually got to see. You didn't know what drug it was, really. I'm guessing it was heroin because they were injecting it. But they don't really ever go into it. So that's the drug operation part of the story. You don't see Mr. No Legs for 7 minutes. So most of the time when you have like these kind of movies, it's like a good 30 minutes till you see them. Especially movies back in the 70s, these exploitation drive-in kind of movies. And so what happens is that one of the warehouse workers kills his girlfriend by accident because she comes across not a stash. He just happens to have syringes and tobacco leaves and a couple of the white powder filled capsules in his apartment. And so she's leaving him, and he's not going to take no for an answer. You're never going to leave me. Then he throws her. She hits her head on the TV and dies. So then he calls his boss, who brings in Mr. No Legs, and they shoot her corpse up with heroin and then dump the body. So it brings in the police, one of them being, Ron Slinkle, who's her brother. And from there, it's just it's them investigating, trying to figure out, it's okay, why did this happen? So it's just this whole big investigation of trying to figure out what's going on. And all the while, Mr. No Legs is just going on and on about how this boss can't be, talking to me this way. I'm going to be the boss. And his, not cohort, but his underling is that's right, Fred. That's right, boss. You're not going to, you shouldn't let him talk to you that way. It's I'm going to run things. It's that's right. He's get the car. He must have said get the car 6 or 7 times in 20 minutes. Apparently he was just old school mobster, and his boss was just trying to go more legit, less killing. So it kind of like whenever he was like, we don't do things that way anymore, and then he was just trying to be like sweet to everybody. It just kind of reminded me of Oscar with Sylvester Stallone. So I just kept picturing like a guy coming out like holding a gun, but it was a chicken leg, going over the heads of everybody who's never seen Oscar. I'm digressing way too much now. The plot is fairly linear. If you did not have Richard Jekyll there, I've said his name 4 different ways already. Don't care. The plot would have been all over the place. He was the anchor of this movie. And for a good portion, he was the star of this movie. Without him, this movie would have been in shambles. Ron Slinkle, it's like his acting was fine. Reading up into his wrestling career, he was apparently he had like alcoholism problems, but that'd be for like a podcast that I don't do podcasts, so oh well. But yeah, it was yeah, I mean like I spent 10 years looking for this movie, and I'm just like I'm processing everything all at once. Like this is one of those things should I have watched it like 3 fucking times? I mean, there's just so much going on here. I'm just babbling about it and just like excited and a little drunk but yeah, I mean, okay. the guys that wrote and directed it. The guy that directed it is damn it, where is his name? Rico Browning, who most people know as the creator of Flipper, and he was the man that did all the underwater sequences of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And the guy who wrote it is Jack Croden, who was one of the main writers of Flipper. The only other thing that they both did in horror outside of this was a movie called Island Claws, which is also in the hat. But I'm hoping I'm able to find a better copy, because about a third of the film that I've seen, which is on both Tubi and Amazon currently, you cannot see. And I don't mean like, oh, you just can't see it. Like, it's just like been censored. I mean like they're night scenes and it's just a black screen. Like you can't fix anything on it. It's just like, oh my god, my house. And it's like, what happened to it? I can't see anything. It's just a black screen. It's pretty much like that because the quality of the film is so bad. Anyways, so like that's the director and writing part of this team. Like I said, this movie, I don't know what happened for it to take this fucking long to come out. This movie had everything going for it to get a cult following. Outside of that fucking ending. The last 20 minutes of this movie was a car chase that was just fucking boring. There was no, other than like 10 seconds of inside the person they were chasing's car, you didn't see inside either of the lead chaser or chasee's car. You saw a couple of over-the-shoulder shots of other cops that are in the chase, but that was it. And almost all the cops were wearing helmets. I'm guessing for 2 reasons. One of which is because almost all these cars crashed, so there was, a safety crew. Or 2, for all the other sequences, they were real police that didn't want to show their face, because they almost all look like motorcycle helmets, and I've never seen a 70s film where cops wore motorcycle helmets inside of police cars. And I mean motorcycle helmets where you can only see like right here. So they're pretty much all wrapped around, and almost all of them were wearing sunglasses, and they had like the visors that go right here. So it had to be for safety, for like, it had to be a mixture of safety and, and staying anonymous. I could not say that word. So yeah, and then it just ended with, it's like, I didn't kill your sister. Check my left pocket. I get records. It's like, everybody in the operation is fucking dead. What good are the records? You can't exonerate yourself. You showed you were a dirty fucking cop. What good are the records going to do? The entire operation is dead. There's nobody left alive. It made no sense after his 20-minute fucking car chase. That was just... I'm just like... And watching these alone is killing me. No one to back and forth with. I need another 2 of these. And then, Alright, so, final versions, I don't know. Oh! Out of random, during one of the attempted hits of Andy, the, one of the co-leads, Mr. No Legs, who has, I forget to mention his arsenal on his wheelchair. He has, he has these buttons, and above both armrests are double-barrel shotguns. And on the sides of the wheels, the hubcaps, basically, of his wheelchair are fucking throwing stars. So he's got these weapons on there. Okay? So he attempts to place a hit on Andy. One of his hitmen comes out with a fucking broadsword. Not a broadsword. A claymore. And there's just like 2 minutes of him beating the shit out of this car and stabbing through it, through the roof of the car, through the side of the car, and Andy's just going, I mean, seriously, I'm like, what the fuck are why is there a double barrel shotguns, silenced, pistol, claymore. Yeah, Gary, why the fuck did you bring a claymore to this? God damn it. It was pretty much, I was done. But, okay. I digress. So out of, random claymore hits, I give this movie a solid 4 out of 5. It was fun. This movie, it would have honestly, I would have given it 5 if it wasn't for the ending car chase. It had everything going for it for a classic, 70s drive-in police revenge crime movie, and then that car chase happened. And it wasn't a good car chase. It wasn't like, Smokey and the Bandit or, White Lightning kind of car chase. It just was, it was just fucking boring. It was just very lackadaisical. I mean, they just kind of like, we're out of money. Let's go driving in the country. And, yeah, those are my thoughts on Mr. No Legs, the film I've been personally searching for about since 2009. So, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and if you have any suggestions you would like to see me put in a hat, or if you'd like to see me do a special episode, hopefully Wade will be able to come back soon and join me on some of these. Like, I'm sorry, buddy, but you don't really cuddle like Wade does. So anyways, until next time, I'm Gary. This is Wade. Bye, everybody.